In a completely unexpected turn of events, it appears the planeswalker Tibalt is actually going to be in the Kaldheim set. I was not expecting that. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. When it comes to planeswalkers that got a raw deal, Tibalt is one of the most high-ranking ones. He actually has a really cool story behind him, but I guess we should probably talk about why I think he's in Kaldheim before we get into what Tibalt is and what he's really doing on the plane of Kaladesh, right? So this is speculation at this point because we're using kind of grainy product images to theoretically figure out what's going on, but I feel pretty comfortable with this being Tibalt. Now, the original credit for figuring this out goes to Planeswalker MTG on Instagram. So I'm gonna put a picture up here on the screen, and what we're looking at is the Kaldheim booster box. Now, I love that people pay this much attention, right? Because we're drilling down a level. We're looking at what's on one of the booster packs, most specifically the one on the far right that is circled. Taking a closer look at it, you can see there is kind of a reddish individual, right? And so this has led people to go, you know what? That's got to be Tibalt. That's probably Tibalt. And I have to say, I'm very much in agreement that this is most likely Tibalt. And funnily enough, the reason for that is Tibalt's awful haircut. Tibalt's hair, to me, has always just looked ridiculous. I've wondered if that's actually part of what drives him on in the universe, causing havoc. But either way, take a look at the booster pack, right? Take a look up here. You can see, like, first of all, you've got the red skin that matches the color of Tibalt's skin. Then you've got the horns coming out of the head, which matches Tibalt. And it even has that very particular, like emo kind of, you gotta keep brushing it out of your, I gotta get it out of my eyes, Mom. I can't see My Chemical Romance YouTube videos. All right, I'm not okay. So it's that kind of hair. So we've got a situation where it seems like it's very, very likely that Tibalt is on Kaldheim. The chances of them making a demon that matches Tibalt to this degree and throwing it in Kaldheim seems really, really unlikely. Although I do have to admit that at this point, we are looking at a flat image and I am literally just going, look at his D-bag hair, it's gotta be him. So I'll admit, in this situation, this could be incorrect. I could be wrong. But to me, the most interesting part of this is why is Tibalt on Kaldheim, right? He eventually, actually the last time we saw him, he was imprisoned, right? So, like, Tibalt's an amazing character. If you guys don't know, I'm not going to go through everything that's happened to him, but I'll give you, like, a background of what Tibalt is. He's originally from Innistrad, and he basically, through his own frustrations and being kind of an awful person, he drew all these, like, little devils to him. They were attracted to his personality. He's kind of a malicious, hateful and hurtful kind of person. So he's trying to make all these different things happen. All these little devils and imps start showing up and chattering to him. And, you know, he starts becoming more friendly with them as they guide partially his research and what he's doing, right? They start to exert their influence on him, and he is most readily open to this influence. So what happens as a result is the townfolk find out what's going on with Tibalt. And, like, they basically, like, break in on him doing, like, Tibalt's experiments were in, like, extremes. How much pain can a person take? What are the extreme limits of pain that a body can endure, right? So basically you start to get whispers, because you can't do stuff like this for long without information getting out, right? People start disappearing, weird noises start coming from your place, and slowly but surely, people start to go, yo, what's going on over at Tibalt's place? We got to see what's up. So they basically eventually get to the point where it's like, yo, let's go break into Tibalt's place. We've got to put a stop to whatever he's doing. And when they break in, they're met with essentially their worst fear. Tibalt's there with a whole bunch of devils. They're experimenting and stuff. You know what? It's like, not only is it caught red-handed with like a person there, you also, that he's experimenting on, you have all these devils that are like, yeah, in the background. He's got like a cheering group of devils. So obviously, this leads to a scenario where the townfolk are like, all right, let's destroy Tibalt. And this is where Tibalt's planeswalker spark ignites, but it doesn't ignite in the normal. In some ways, it's normal because it ignites under duress, right? Like normally sparks ignite under duress, unless you happen to be Calyx, in which case you go, I want a spark because Elspeth went out there and I want to go too. So Calyx is a weird outlier. And actually, did you guys know, I've been reading again the original, like the very first Magic novel they ever wrote. And back then, planeswalkers didn't actually have to have a unique spark to ignite. Anybody who could wield mana, if they could draw enough power to them, could theoretically unlock the mysteries required to become a planeswalker, which is interesting in a way, but it does, I'll admit, it makes planeswalkers cooler when they have like this latent spark that just kind of activates on them when they're under extreme stress, right? That's what happened sort of with Urza, although that has to do with the gemstone eyes and whatever. That's the story we're covering over on the other channel. But Tibalt becoming a planeswalker, his spark igniting, was actually because it was a combination of the duress and him trying a spell that had been crafted with his knowledge and the devil's knowledge. And basically, like, he wasn't really 100% sure what the spell was going to do. But the spell ignited, turning him into a planeswalker, but at the same time, it fused him with a bunch of the devils that were in the area with him. Up until that point, he was literally just a regular human being. Like, Tibalt didn't originally look like this. If you think, like, they busted in on him and he was like, yeah, I'm all ripped, I'm the devil, I'm Tibalt. No, he looked just like me, but he had a bunch of little devils named Gary going, do it, buddy, do it, right? So they all fused together into one being. And this just made Tibalt that much worse, right? He's still very much drawn to pain and the outer limits of what humans can experience. He's not a good person. So a number of different things happen, right? He gets drawn here or there. We fall for the story. He goes to the War of the Spark thing. And then we only saw this in the comic books, but Tibalt's most recent escapades have actually just been like hassling Chandra. He basically goes and finds Chandra and just starts to cause massive problems for her. Admittedly, I have to say, them casting Tibalt as the villain in the Chandra comic books actually kind of escalated the nature of Tibalt. It made him feel more impressive and more villainous, because the problem with Tibalt as well, like, he's got a really cool backstory, but the Planeswalker card they made for him, they decided to experiment and make a really cheap cost Planeswalker, but they also made him really weak. So overall, he was just despised as a garbage Planeswalker. The uncommon version of him from War of the Spark is actually better than the original Planeswalker version they made, which is not a good sign. But either way, Tibalt's basically like just doing as much as he can to make Chandra's life miserable, because he actually like psychically feeds on people's pain now. That's part, like, him merging with those devils has changed his nature. So now not only does he have the initial curiosity he had about experimenting with the human limits, but he actually gains specifically from making people's lives harder. The worse you do to people, the more fearful and in pain they are, the better it is for Tibalt. So he chased Chandra around. They end up on Kaladesh. Tibalt ends up getting arrested on Kaladesh. Kaladesh is interesting in that they've managed to come up with a couple of different ways to keep planeswalkers under lock where they can't really do much. So Tibalt is put into kind of a rune-covered prison that he is unable to escape. And that's actually where we left off with Tibalt. So the last we saw him, he was in a rune-covered prison, and now he's on Kaldheim. So what drew him to Kaldheim? Did he manage to do some kind of daring escape from the prison on Kaladesh, and now he's fleeing captors that are chasing him, although good luck he's a planeswalker? Is he fleeing captors that are chasing him, and that's why he's in Kaldheim? Or is he drawn to Kaldheim because there's an insane amount of suffering and pain going on? Is Kaldheim a very bleak and bitter world where your chances of survival are very, very low? And that's why he's there. He just felt it like this psychic beacon out through the blind eternities, because that's what planeswalkers travel through, right? They go through the blind eternities to go to different planes of existence. So Tibalt, can he just feel that there's a whole bunch of suffering going on on Kaldheim, and that's where he's gone there? Because I have to think, with the devils fused into him, and him being half devil, like a cold environment like Kaldheim would be the worst place for him, wouldn't it? Like, wouldn't that be the absolute, just, I hate it here. So there has to be some big draw that's bringing him here. And all of this, of course, is granted that this information we're looking at is actually accurate and Tibalt's actually going to be there. But I am genuinely curious to know how he fits into the story, because he has very particular desires. He's driven by his own needs. He doesn't have like some greater good he's serving, like the Gatewatch or whatever. He's not a noble individual. He's a base, awful individual. So for me, that's pretty interesting. And I'm curious to see whether Wizards is actually going to bother to explain to us how he escaped the prison, or if because that was in comic books, that'll just be shoved aside. If you remember War of the Spark, we never found out how Sorin got free. Like, Nahiri and Sorin had this awesome kind of back and forth, crazy all-out confrontation that ended up with Sorin, like, trapped. He was trapped in a wall or whatever. He couldn't get away. And they never bothered to tell us how he got loose. And that was disappointing. So we don't get to find that out by Tibalt, about Tibalt. I will be a little bit disappointed. But either way, I wanted to come and talk about this because I thought it was interesting. Thought you guys would think it was interesting. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like what I'm doing here, like, comment, subscribe. It's all great for the channel and appreciated by me. Sharing the videos around really helps. And other than that, I will say I have 2 new videos I've recently made. One is a lore video and one is a hilarious video I guarantee will make you laugh. I'll put them both up on the screen and you choose your own adventure. Choose wisely.